Just real quick, the only roster move to report, Caden Stearns went to reserve injured, and LJ Lil'Jordan Humphrey, we moved up to the active roster. So from a transaction standpoint, that's the only thing. Any questions?
With Greg, the fact that he's had hamstring injuries before, does that change how you approach it, or do you just treat it the way it is?
Well, I mean, I think each one's different. We're 3 days removed from it. He felt better today. We treat it, and just like we did with Jerry, Bo and his staff will do a great job of going through the correct rehab, all the things necessary.
Was Jerry close to going last week? I saw you down on
He
the field
was.
with him.
Listen, and I get it sometimes, you guys, when I say game day, but he was a game day decision. And hamstrings are tricky, though. The idea of possibly getting set back 2 or 3 more weeks, but he was close. We actually had a workout pregame, to go through it, and made our decision off that.
Washington's defensive front, when you look at them, what sort of challenge?
Yeah, they create a lot of minus plays. I mean, just looking at the cut-ups, you'll see 2nd and 12s. I'm not even talking about rushing the passer, just within the framework of the run game. They're real active. They're athletic. All of those guys have had obviously great college careers. A lot of them are first-round draft picks that are playing well, and the defense kind of feeds off that. So they're a handful. I mean, you got to look closely at what you want to do in the running game, and then certainly in the protections as well.
With Payne and Allen in particular, is it harder to deal with elite interior players even than the edge guys in some way?
It's hard to deal with elite players. If there's an elite corner, you could say we're going to throw over here. When you deal with elite ends, you might be able to nudge one of them. And then to your question, when it's inside, which way is the center turning? If I'm the guards, I'd like the center to come to me. So, yeah, I think to your point, there's some different challenges in protection that maybe are a little different with an end.
You coached against Ron a bunch, obviously, when he was in Carolina. What are characteristics of his teams?
Well, listen, they're disciplined. They're outstanding when they win the turnover differential. We went through those numbers today. We did a whole, career, Carolina and Washington. Their record when they win the turnover margin is pretty remarkable. They've always been tough, physical. Man, we had a history of really, really good, tough games against Carolina, and then more recently at Washington. I think I lose track of the year, but those are the things that come to my mind.
Do you see more influence of Jack Del Rio in his defense and Ron?
Yeah, and look, there's a little combination because I can recall seeing Jack's defense shoot Jacksonville. Was it here as well? Yeah, and so like you put on the goal line and there's a certain front that's like, if I just looked at the goal line front, I'd say Jack Del Rio's on the staff. And he, I've gotten to know him. He's done a great job. They finished first in the league last year on 3rd down. Tonight we game plan 3rd down. So, all 32 teams, these guys had the least conversion percentage. They're a penetrating front, and you got to understand what you're seeing. They've got a few defensive packages. They'll play it like a penny package. They'll play a nickel, a Buffalo nickel, and then a base defense. It goes hand in hand. How the front's playing obviously creates opportunities for the back end.
John, what were the teaching points that came out of the last red zone trip on Sunday that you hope you guys?
Yeah, look, there's a number of teaching points from that game, and obviously when the game unfolds and now you're in a 6-possession game, points are at a premium. So there were a number of things we cleaned up. The exactness of what we're doing both in the running game and the passing game. And again, me as a play caller, I look back and I'm like, we have to start looking at ourselves first before anything else. And so I know I can be better. But we kind of put that one to bed, and we're focused on this next one.
Coach, you've spent a lot of time in the NFCs with the Giants and Cowboys. What stands out to you about the Commanders, even with new ownership now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I go back, I'm going to age myself, early on with the Eagles, Darryl Green and Joe Gibbs, and they were always one of those 6 or 7 pillar organizations that I knew my uncle used to love the Redskins at that time. Now they're the Commanders. But anyway, the tradition, the rivalries, it's interesting. And I was asked this about rivalry games, but, all of those games mattered because those teams were good. Parcells with the Giants, you had Gibbs, you had Landry. Then the Eagles got good with Andy. Those were good teams. And I think I saw something at the beginning of the year when they put up divisions and then Super Bowl trophies. There's a long history there. And a lot of us forget the St. Louis Cardinals were part of that division at one time. And so, as a kid, you grew up watching whatever's on TV. Back then, there were only 3 channels. And so you got what they gave you. And more often than not, one of these NFC East teams was on the television. So, and it was unique, or I'd say somewhat of a coincidence, that I was with the Eagles, with the Giants, with the Cowboys. The first 10 years of my career was just in that division, everyone but Washington. Now, we played a lot of NFC East games when I was in New Orleans, playoff games with the Eagles. There's a lot of tradition there, much like there is here.
What's the challenge when there's not a lot of tape of offenses that Eric Bieniemy's called, and does VJ's relationship maybe help, just understanding his tendencies maybe?
Look, we're a game further than we were last week. You have a game. You look at some Kansas City film. You have to study the personnel, and a limited look at the preseason. Obviously different than last week's opponent where nothing had changed, So fortunately, we've got a game. It would have been more difficult if you didn't have that, and you kind of go from there.
We asked you about the explosives on Monday. When you go into a game, can you make it a priority that we're going to have them, or do you still have to react to the coverage?
Yeah, I mean, I called probably 3 or 4 explosive. The intent is an explosive play or a shot play. Sometimes the coverage dictates it, that it's not. We run the Olay pump and we kind of catch it. We just nick the sideline. We're out of bounds there. We got pressured on one of them. Russ had to, get rid of it quickly. There's certain looks you call it for, and then maybe you get out of the looks if you're not getting what you're looking for. And then some of them you feel good about regardless of what you see. So that being said, though, and it doesn't have to be a 50-yard touchdown pass, a 20-yard, 30-yard completion or a big run. At some point, those things lead to, and I'm all for a 17-play drive, don't get me wrong, but I'm also like a 5-play drive.
What did you like about Lil'Jordan? Obviously, you're familiar with him. And
Yeah, he's smart, he's tough, and he's got strong hands. He can block. So he's a physical receiver. And, there's a size element to what he does. He operates pretty well in tight quarters. We don't put him out wide all the time. We'll usually have him in the slot. We can move him around, but you know exactly what you're getting. Like tonight when we put third down up and we go through it, I kind of know what he is, and then we do the things that he does well.
Coach, I was wondering, you mentioned on Monday how the Raiders showed a lot more soft zone coverage than you guys expected. As the offense, is there a way you guys can kind of force them to change the way they present against you guys?
You hope to establish the running game. I thought we were just under 100 yards rushing. It kind of goes hand in hand. I don't know that, to their credit, I don't know there was anything uniquely different. That just they were staying on top of the balls pretty well.
just to clarify, with Caden, obviously you can bring guys back off of reserve injured. Do you expect he's
I don't with his injury. It's a patella tendon, which is probably season ending.
You talked about how unique it was, only have, I guess, 6 possessions. Was there a hope to maybe get Jaleel a few more snaps if the game would have played out different, or did it kind of work?
Yeah, look, I think it's one of the things we talked about when the game ended. You know, you always have that closure. All right, we played it. You know, we're going to play him again if we had it to. You know, yeah, there is, and you know, we'll find those touches for him. I think that'll be important. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
So